Welcome back to Beyond the Script, the podcast that talks about intuition, identity, the spiritual side of entrepreneurship, and some other life things thrown in. My name is Nikki. I am your host, spiritual life coach, and intuitive business mentor. And today we are going to be talking about the feminine archetypes in business, more specifically focused on the divine mother, the divine daughter, and then the wounded feminine, potentially broken down into mother and daughter as well. When we look at business from a feminine energy standpoint, particularly a divine feminine mothering standpoint, business comes from an idea. You have an idea, you create the business and you build it, right? Very feminine, can be very feminine. You're birthing the idea to be tangible in your business. So when we build a business that is from the divine energy of a divine mother, and this is not to be confused with mothering, which would be more of a wounded mother trait. But when we look at it from the divine mother, we look at the energy in business as something that is nurturing, guiding, and building sustainable structures, right? Think automation, think safe and fertile environments for ideas, clients, and teams to grow, right? Think of somebody who holds healthy boundaries while also being deeply compassionate. They're not a people pleaser. If you're running in this energy in your business, you're not people pleasing. You're really in a CEO energy. CEOs don't ask for permission, they just do what needs to be done without letting their emotions get in the way of the vision or without letting their emotions get in the way of the task at hand. The Divine Mother has a long term vision, planting seeds for harvest rather than chasing quick wins. They can see the process, trust the process, and understand that the work that is being done today will sometimes yield results 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now, a year from now. And they're okay with that. They're okay with that because they have the capacity to hold that energetic space for that long. See, on the wounded side, and this would get more into like a wounded daughter, they don't have the capacity to hold that space for that long because they want the quick win and they want it right now. They want everything to happen today. Think of a child. A child doesn't have a lot of patience because a child does not have a concept of time. A minute feels like an eternity to a child, right? This is not how the Divine Mother runs in business. The Divine Mother gives support without rescuing. So she is there for her clients, she is there for her team members, she is there for whomever she's responsible for, but she also empowers them to step into their own authority. She doesn't overstep, she doesn't necessarily tell them what to do, but more so gives them the tools so that they can come to their own understanding and build up, their own essence and their own authority from that. So in action, she coaches and mentors with care but doesn't micromanage, building business models that are nourishing for both her and her clients. And she invests in quote unquote like the roots, right? The systems of values and culture before expecting the fruits of the labor. She's okay with the business feeling boring. I had a mentor who told me that all the time. The business will feel boring. And it never clicked. It never clicked for many, many months until it finally did. And I'm so grateful that she told me that because looking back, when she was coaching me, I was very much not in that mindset. I was more in like the wounded daughter, like I want everything to yield results yesterday. But at the same time, I wouldn't allow the business to be boring so that it could grow. And that's why nothing was happening, right? So I'm very grateful for that. So let's take a look at the divine daughter in business and let's just kind of look into the differences because you should be both. You should be both. And I'll get into why in just a minute. But some of the things about the divine daughter in business is she's curious, she's receptive, and she is in on open to the possibilities. So some of her traits include being open to mentorship, to guidance, and to learning without giving away her power. There is a difference in learning something and applying it to your life and then teaching on it versus learning something and then teaching with zero implementation. Just teaching because it's a hot topic to teach, right? That's not divine energy. So in the divine daughter, she also sees business as an adventure, embraces play and experimentation. She is coachable. She can be mentored, right? Because she has a level of curiosity and a level of openness to growth that allows her to also be mentored. The curiosity plays a role in being able to try new things in business, in being able to put out a new offer, right? That the divine daughter mixed with the divine mother energy in these archetypes that live within us, she gets curious about, I wonder what would happen if I created this. And then the divine mother is what births the idea into reality, right? They go hand in hand. She receives abundance with gratitude and without guilt. Okay, in action, she learns new skills quickly because she's not afraid to be a beginner. If you are afraid to be a beginner in business, you're going to have a hard time in business. I had a discussion with a friend a while ago about how we need to strip away this fear of not looking smart or of looking dumb or of looking like we don't know something, and be okay with being a beginner. Beginners are not always good in the beginning. They get better with time and with repetition and with practice and all of these things, right? And so our ego gets in the way of allowing us to be a beginner because some of us as humans feel that we need to come out and be perfect. And that's not how it works. You have to be okay with beginning, and you have to be okay with making mistakes. Divine energy does not look at mistakes as setbacks. They don't look at mistakes as something negative. They don't look at failures as something negative. They look at them as data points, as opportunities to try again, as opportunities to restructure. Those are some key differences in divine energy versus wounded energy. The divine daughter also brings lightness and joy into launches and client work. Not everybody makes business fun. Not everybody has fun parts of their business. That's totally fine. That's I believe that's a personal preference. But if you have this divine daughter energy in you, then yes, there is lightness and joy that comes into your launches, into your client work, into all the things. I personally, I like my business to be fun. Yes, there are boring things to do. There are boring tasks. I don't like tedious administrative tasks, but they need to get done. But I like for my business to be fun, that's part of why I have this podcast. Recording this is fun to me, right? So you find ways to bring some joy into your business, and your clients can also feel that joy exude from you in business. The divine daughter asks for help without feeling inadequate. She's not afraid to ask for help. She's not afraid to look to or mentor for guidance, or to say like, hey, I'm not sure how to do this. Can you assist me? Or anything like that. And I will also add, she takes criticism and critiquing without being offended, without, without feeling some type of way, without wanting to run off and hide, because she understands that in order for her to grow, that she absolutely needs to be open to learning what she can improve on, right? So those are some key traits and actions of the divine daughter, and you can kind of hear how it blends into the divine mother, right? You start with the divine daughter with this curiosity and receptiveness and just in awe of everything that's possible, right? That's what starts the idea. Then the divine mother gets into the birthing process. She births the business, she does the nurturing, she does the guiding, she builds the sustainable structures. All of these archetypes live within you. This is not that you need to go seek these things outside of you every time. They live within you. If you are in a divine daughter energy, you may find a divine mother energy to help, to help bring your business to fruition, to help, see it past a certain point, right? But that does not mean, just because you look for a mentor, that does not mean you don't have any divine mothering energy within you, okay? Both can live within simultaneously. So, with that being said, what are the wounded feminine archetypes in business? What does a wounded mother look like? And what does a wounded daughter look like? That energy in business. So, the wounded mother in business is overgiving. The energy is overgiving, self sacrificing, and controlling. Controlling through perceived care, I will say. She burns herself out taking care of everyone, right? She is the one that has like the open calendar, message me anytime. I'm always here. And she doesn't set her proper boundaries, okay? Her She enables a dependency in her business where people are dependent on her instead of empowering them to do things on their own. She makes it so that her clients, her teammates are dependent on her. She has to feel needed. She has to feel wanted, right? She sometimes resents her clients or her business because she feels unappreciated, because she needs her emotions to be charged in a certain way. She needs to feel a certain way about business. She needs to feel a certain way to be able to operate her business, right? She clings to old ways because she knows best and fears change. So she maybe discounts her stuff or over delivers to keep clients. She struggles to set and enforce boundaries, and she gets emotionally drained by client relationships because she has no boundaries. So, in the opposite of the Divine Mother can give support and empower people to step into their own authority. She doesn't need the emotional connection. She doesn't need like the emotional praising or anything like that. The wounded mother does. So when you think about yourself as an entrepreneur in your business, and you can grab a notebook and write this question out, but ask yourself, do I overgive in business? Where am I overgiving in business? What energy lives within me when it comes to my business? And take that and journal on that. You could pause this, you can journal on it after this episode, but journal on that and see what comes up. And allow yourself 10 minutes. I've said this before, but set a timer, get into like a nice meditative state, and ask yourself these questions and write in a free flow for 10 minutes to see what comes through. This will help you to understand what energy is operating your business. Now, the last archetype we're going to look at is the wounded daughter. So this energy in business is dependent, it is approval seeking, and it is afraid to stand alone. Okay, the traits of this: waits for permission before taking action. So she is constantly looking for some form of validation. She is constantly, double checking. Is it okay that I put this offer out? Can I run my business this way? Different things like that. She looks to coaches, mentors, or industry trends to tell her what to do and to tell her how to run her business. If you need somebody to tell you how to run your business, you're in the wrong energy. This is something that I had to learn. I was this person that wanted my coaches to tell me exactly what to do and how to run it. But that's not being in a CEO energy. That's not running a business. That is being in an employee mindset, right? So she also avoids responsibility for mistakes or results. She is afraid to make mistakes. She looks at mistakes as awful. She's afraid to make them. She doesn't look to them as a room for growth. She is afraid that, if she makes a mistake, people are going to laugh at her, people are going to make fun of her, people are going to have something to say, right? So she operates by avoiding responsibility and essentially living in fear of her business. She sabotages opportunities out of fear of success or failure. So fear of success really comes down to, in the last episode I talked about identities, but fear of success is coming into, that fear of change, not wanting to evolve, not wanting to shed the old identity to let the successful version and the successful identity emerge, right? And this goes hand in hand with the wounded mother. The wounded mother fears change. They want things to stay the same because it's comfortable, but there is no growth there. So, in action, the wounded daughter is constantly pivoting offers or brand based on outside opinions. She doesn't do things that are intuitively led. She changes things based on how she's been told to change things, or based on how she feels she will be perceived or how she wants to be perceived, versus doing it from what comes from within, doing it from the core, doing it from the intuitive guidance. Whereas the Divine Mother in action is strong in her intuition. She knows exactly what she's meant to do, and she does it without asking, without permission. The wounded daughter in action struggles to price or position herself confidently. And she constantly stays in learning mode instead of implementing. A forever student, but a forever student because that's the safe zone. So, like, think busy work, right? She's constantly like, well, I have to learn this before I can do anything. I have to master this. A little bit of perfectionism, possibly. So, with all of that being said, those are the 4 archetypes that are in business. And now you could easily have all of these. You could have all of these different archetypes in your business in different areas, right? You could be really divine in one section and, operating from your highest self, from the divine feminine in one section of your business while still seeking validation in another. This I have found usually happens during a transition time, during when you're in that metamorphosis period of being rebirthed. You may have some old traits in you while you're birthing some new traits, right? And so you may have some wounded things that need to be let go of before you can fully step into the divine power. Once you get into the divine power, that's, like I said, then your intuition becomes your number one business partner. The more you listen to your intuition and the more you allow your intuition to guide you in business, then the closer you will get to the divine mother energy in business, where you don't need to seek permission, you don't need to seek validation, you don't need to seek trauma bonds, you don't need, clients who praise you. You are not fearful when clients leave, anything like that. But it takes some evolving to do. So, another journal prompt for you would be, where in my business am I leading from divine feminine? And where might I be slipping into the wounded feminine? So take some time after this episode, write that down and see, where you're at in business, what needs improvement, what is doing well, and understand the energy of your business. I would highly recommend for something like this, I would highly recommend like taking what I said, looking over the notes, maybe doing a little bit of a meditation just to get very like calm and grounded, a little 10-minute meditation. You can grab one on YouTube. You can also I'll link in the show notes my Uncover Your Purpose meditation. You can do that. And then write out the answer to that question. Where in my business am I leading from my divine feminine, and where might I be slipping into the wounded feminine? That is it for today's episode. If you liked this episode and learned something, please share it with another woman entrepreneur who could benefit from hearing this. As I mentioned, I'll put a meditation in the show notes, and I will also put the link to the identity rewrite inside of the show notes. That's a free 5-day email course that I have to take you through rewriting your identity. Even though it's not specific to business is all about identity and identity rewriting and identity embodiment and things like that. So I do feel it would be beneficial to anybody who listens to this episode. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.